slice the little, what am I trying to say? Woo! Wow, good catch. So, how great is that? I sound like Ina when I say that. How great is that?
You have the good butter.
Definitely have good olive oil, yes. I'm gonna do one here with, ooh, where are my beans? Oh, beans, here. Hi, it's Wendy Cannon, and I am joining you from my kitchen, and I'm normally cooking at the Dr. Yum Project Kitchen, where we give cooking classes to people of all ages. So this is my version of a cooking class to help you with planning breakfast, lunch, and dinner all at one time to save you time and effort in the kitchen. So we're gonna get started. Okay, so we always wanna make sure you get everyone involved in the kitchen. So from your youngest kids to your teenagers to your spouse, whoever, get everybody involved. There's something everyone can do. So I'm gonna start with these guys. I'm gonna show you sort of how to start prepping this. We're gonna actually cook all of these hard crucifer vegetables on the same roasting pan, and we'll cook some of the softer vegetables on another one. So once you get your broccoli, go ahead and cut this rough end off. And then if you want to get your kids involved, remember you need to have some kid-safe knives. These are our puppy knives. You can find them on our website. And I always tell the kids to be careful with your broccoli. You don't want to cut the tops off the trees. So you actually want to get inside and get into the stems and make little trees. So I say take a bigger tree and make lots of little trees. So I'm going to do that with this broccoli. Get that started. I'm going to show you about the cauliflower. So the kids can easily just pluck these off and put them in your compost. And you can give it a start by sort of cutting this stem off. This is a really cute one. And what I love about roasted vegetables is vegetables taste different when they're roasted. I mean, if you're gonna steam all these things, broccoli, cauliflower can get kind of soggy, but if you roast them, they get that nice toasty brown and they have the oil. It's just delicious. So you're gonna go into the cauliflower about the same way. You can cut it in half first. It makes it a little easier. And then you can sort of see that you can cut this stalk out a little bit. And then start, once again, making little trees with your knife. You want, when you're roasting vegetables, everything to be about the same size, because you don't want certain ones to get overcooked and certain ones to be undercooked. So whatever you're doing with your roasted veggies, pick a side and stick with it. The other thing I always suggest when you're chopping vegetables is chop extra. Just chop them for snacks. So you can roast most of this, but go ahead and save out a portion to keep as chopped veg in your fridge. You can have your hummus in there or some ranch dip or whatever. And then it's really easy for when everybody gets snacky. And honestly, it's really good to give everyone in the family the exposure to vegetables raw and cooked. Obviously different cooking preparations, steamed versus roasted versus sauteed, but raw. Some people really prefer certain veggies raw and don't prefer them cooked. So keep some raw cauliflower, peppers, carrots, any of those things, cucumbers in the fridge ready to go for snacks. Okay, now we're up to my favorite roasted veg, roasted Brussels sprouts. So these are gonna join the cauliflower and broccoli over here. These are basically like little tiny cabbages. If you haven't seen how one grows, look them up online. They grow on a big stalk. And if you get them from the farmer's market, and sometimes in the grocery store on the stalk, you can actually cut the little sprouts off of the stalk. It's really cool. A lot of people are not fans of these. I never grew up eating these in my family because my grandmother just used to boil them and my dad did not like that. So roasting really brings out the beauty in this vegetable. So you're gonna wanna cut the end off. And these are kind of large-ish. If the outer skin peel doesn't look too great, you can just peel one off or so. And then I'm just gonna probably quarter these, and that should be good. So I'm gonna quarter them because I want them to be about the same size as these other items that I have on the roasting pan. Okay, see that? The ovens are preheating. Some people really prefer roasting at 400. I tend to roast usually at 375. You'll get to know what works best in your oven, so you're gonna wanna pay attention if this is your first time roasting vegetables. You wanna just kind of pay attention to how things are going. Whenever you're roasting vegetables, you want to do a kind of a open up the oven, stir everything around, move it around. You want all the sides of the vegetable to get onto the surface of the baking sheet so they get that good brown flavor. You also want to shift top shelf to bottom shelf halfway through so that the ones that have been cooking on the bottom and getting a little extra brown on there, they get up top and get a little brown on the top, and vice versa. I'm gonna actually have 3 racks going. I got a new stove and it has an upper and 2 in the lower. So we'll have 3 sheet pans of roasted veggie going. I'm a big fan of whenever you're prepping food, prep a bunch. We use leftovers a lot here. Dinner time tends to be the time where if I haven't planned ahead and I don't have things already going that we can easily grab and put together, then we might end up going out. And guess what? It's a lot harder to go out now. You have to do takeout and it's complicated. So we're cooking a lot of meals at home, and the Dr. Yum Project is here to help you through this time and hopefully instill some really great habits that you'll continue. Because honestly, when you're cooking most of your meals at home, you're saving money, you're eating more healthy, and you're having more family time. We take this dish to a lot of events, and so if we're gonna be at an event for maybe a good 3 or 4 hours, we'll make a double recipe of this, and I mean, we're talking like 6 sheets of roasted vegetables, lots of quinoa, and Sarah and I usually in the kitchen prepping all this stuff together, so I miss having her beside me while all this chopping is going on. But I'm really excited that she's the one who's gonna get the video to edit. So, Sarah, thank you. I miss you. Oh, my ovens are preheated. That's great because we're about halfway through chopping the veggies. Going for the soft veg. Now, this recipe only calls for 2 peppers, but I like to have all 3 colors in my roasted veggies and quinoa. So what I'll do is I'll save some of each color pepper and make some strips, like I said, to put in the fridge to dip with hummus. Of course, if you go on dryum.org and look at our pepper instruction video with Chef Joy Crump, you will see how to cut a pepper. You really don't have much waste if you're very careful when you're cutting your vegetables, so just take some time and do that. So I'm gonna save some of each pepper for snacking, so I'm gonna put this over here. I'm gonna do the same with these, and then I'll show you how we're gonna prep the rest of the soft veg. All right, I'm gonna move this tray. So you can see I'm not cutting these in super small pieces. You wanna actually have a good bite of veg when you get into the roasted veggies and quinoa, and these are comparable to the size of the broccoli and the cauliflower and the Brussels sprout quarters that we had. So you don't have to be too particular. You just want them to be a pretty similar size. Now we're gonna move on to squash and zucchini. So for this dish, I like to have these kind of, I don't like the rounds as well for this dish, so I like to do it in sort of chunks. You don't really wanna be cutting on your board like this when it can roll around and cut you. So you wanna cut them in half so you have a flat surface, and then I'm just gonna cut it in half again and make some chunks that are similar to the size of my peppers. And those will just go in there. And it may look like I'm doing this really fast and you're like, oh, this would take me forever. The more that you practice, the faster you become in the kitchen, the more efficient you become. You learn what works for you, and you'll be a lot more comfortable. So just keep at it. Cooking is fun. Chopping is something that I really enjoy doing. And if you've given yourself the time to prepare, then you don't feel stressed about it. I think when cooking becomes stressful, that's when people don't enjoy it, because you're like, I gotta get this dinner on the table. So if you're doing something like this, so for me, it's usually shopping day. I come home and make a batch of stuff that I know is gonna last for a couple days. So I was shopping very early this morning, and I knew I would be able to get all this done, and then I'd be able to relax the rest of the weekend because we would have food already in the fridge. Okay, one last thing, this guy. And if you watched our previous, I can't remember if it was on Facebook Live or YouTube, I think it was the Facebook Live where Sarah was talking about ingredients you can find in the grocery store right now, and that is this guy, the eggplant, often overlooked, not often used. Don't be afraid of this, especially roasted. It's really yummy. So it's easy to prepare. It's basically you're gonna do it the same way you did the squash. So just cut it like that and make some nice chunks. You can leave the skin right on it. And you see it's about the same size as our squash and zucchini. And it'll just join these guys. Okay, you can see my pan's getting really full. I have another pan that exact same size that I'm gonna split this into 2 pans. The reason why is if you have your veggies piled up too high, like this, you will not have everything touching the surface area of your sheet and they will not get the good, yummy roast. So I'm gonna put this soft veg onto 2 sheet pans because this is my smaller sheet pan. And then they'll all have some surface area. Believe me, it makes a huge difference. It'll still cook, but they'll be more steamed because the moisture of the vegetables will just sort of leach out and just hang out there. It'll cook in the oven and be fine, but it won't have that nice roast that you're looking for. Okay, let me get the other pan. And half of this over here. See how it can spread out a little bit better? Because I'm not done, I'm gonna make sure that we get some onion and garlic on all the pans. This is a red onion, super delicious, roasted. My favorite for roasting. Now, because of the way I'm gonna cut this onion, if you were doing a fine dice, it's often best to leave the little nub on because then you can cross hatch it and cut the little dices. But I'm not gonna dice this onion. I want the onion to also be of a similar size to the veggies. So I'll show you what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna take off this outer layer. I'm gonna cut it in half. And I'm gonna cut some like that. And then I'm gonna make it kind of chunky. So then my pieces end up being like this. And they'll break up as you stir your veg around. So I'm gonna make sure that half of the onion gets between these two. Whoops. And then the other half of the onion will go with the broccoli, cauliflower, and Brussels. Okay, this one might make me cry a little bit. Sarah, I can't believe it. Usually Sarah's like, you do the onion because you never cry, but this one is actually making me cry a tiny, tiny bit. Wash my hands. Okay, so I'm a big believer in fresh garlic whenever you can. It calls for 4 cloves of garlic. We tend to, at Yum, over garlic everything, so I'll do probably 4 or so, maybe more, to disperse between all these pans of veggies. Let me move this so you can see what I'm doing with my knife. You can always give the kids the garlic to peel because it takes a long time for them, and it's a nice fine motor skill. We have garlic growing for the first time at the Yum kitchen this year because our master gardener, Jonathan Stevens, planted a garlic bed in the front parking lot of Yum Pediatrics. So we're excited to see what happens with that. This garlic is just gonna flavor all those vegetables along with the onion and some seasonings and olive oil that we're gonna put in there and give it some great flavor. Okay, so I feel like that's pretty good. I'm gonna disperse the garlic amongst the veggies and then we'll season them and get them in the oven. For roasting your vegetables, you just wanna drizzle them lightly with olive oil. I put a little bit more on this pan with the broccoli and cauliflower because they'll take a little bit more of that oil. You don't want to really over oil the soft veg. Then I'm going to season. I like a salt mix that is my family's favorite. This is Jane's Crazy Original Mix-Up Salt. It has some other seasonings in it, but you could just use plain old salt, sea salt, or whatever you like, or if you have a favorite seasoning mix, go for it. And then the garlic's already there, but if you don't do fresh garlic, put the garlic powder on it if you don't have fresh garlic. You do want that garlic flavor. And then some just black pepper. So what you want to make sure that you do is that all of your veggies get a little bit of that oil going. So you do need to kind of mix it up before you get it into the oven. Now, you could do this if you want, or you could just, I have clean hands, use your hands. The kids can help do this because you can feel a lot better if everything has gotten into the oil if you use your hands. And then also spread it out. Remember, you want everything to be on the surface of your baking sheet. These are ready to go in, so I'm gonna put the broccoli and cauliflower in the top. And then I have 2 shelves down here. So remember, halfway through, I'm gonna mix everything around and I'm gonna switch shelves for the ones that are on 2 shelves. I'm gonna set my timer for 30 minutes. Now we're gonna start getting these stovetop beans going while the veggies are cooking. Got an onion, and I've got garlic. We'll get those done. And you'll see how quickly this stovetop bean recipe comes together. It's one of our newest recipes. It's from cooking instructor Noah. Noah makes these beans at least every week because his go-to meal is rice and beans. And it's great to have in the fridge ready to go. And we have shared this recipe with our Fajas cooking group, and they love Noah's beans. So we had to make sure we got it up onto the website ASAP. So it is there. You'll find it pretty close to the beginning of the recipes because it just went up recently. So the first thing we're gonna do is get some oil heating in our pan. Okay, onions in, garlic in. When you're sauteing onion and garlic or any of your aromatics before you're gonna do the rest of whatever dish it calls for, it'll often tell you to saute until translucent. So what you wanna do is just keep moving it around in the pan. You don't wanna leave this unattended. You wanna keep moving them around, and the onions will, the natural water in the onions will start to come out and soften the onions, and the flavor really mellows, and this is how you get a really good flavor on your onions and your garlic without having that raw onion, raw garlic flavor. You wanna make sure that you saute everything really nicely. So keep moving it around until the onions get that soft, translucent look. So I've already pre-measured the spices. This is a great thing to do. You wanna just have everything ready when it's time to put it in the recipe. So go ahead and get all that measured and ready. And the smells really develop once you add those spices in, and the spices get a little toasty. I'm gonna add the beans in. And then it's just one of these small cans of vegetable juice. And this provides a really nice flavor and liquid for your beans to cook in. Give it a good stir so that the spices and the onions and garlic get all mixed in. Simmer on low for 30 minutes covered. So I'm gonna put the lid on, and actually I'm gonna move it to my back burner because I'm gonna show you how to get this chicken going. So while our veggies are roasting and while our beans are simmering, we're gonna go ahead and get the chicken grilled. I like this very inexpensive grill pan. This is something you can use year round if you don't wanna get the gas grill fired up or whatever. If you have a very inexpensive grill pan, these work great for grilling chicken breast, pork chops, salmon, anything you wanna grill inside. So I'm gonna actually put the grill pan on the stove and get the fire going on it so it heats the grill pan. While that's happening, I have the chicken breasts here, and I'm just gonna drizzle a little bit of olive oil on them. And then I actually move the chicken breast to get the bottom of this one on the top of that one to sort of spread this oil around and make sure they get oil on each side. Use your tongs. You wanna stay safe with raw meat. So I just use my tongs and go ahead and make sure there's oil on the top and bottom of each chicken breast. Then use your favorite seasoning. I use my favorite salt mix, black pepper, garlic powder. This is the secret to success in our family. So just season on one side. and then head over to the grill pan, which hopefully will be nice and hot. So come on over. You don't want to put your meat that you want to grill, you do not want to put it on a cold pan because it won't get those nice brown lines that you want. Yes, we have a sizzle. A lot of people are cautious and nervous about grilling meat because you're like, I'm not sure when this is going to be done. I don't know. A meat thermometer is a great thing to have in your collection of kitchen equipment. We're going to let this happen for a minute, but I'm going to show you while that's on that side, I'm going to season it the same way I did on the other side that's cooking now. The hardest thing to do when you're grilling meat is to leave it alone. So don't mess around with this. You want actually those sear marks to get on the meat. You want about halfway of the meat to start cooking on that first time before you flip. So don't flip too soon. Don't be flipping back and forth. Leave it on this side for a while, and I'll show you what it looks like when I flip it. Halfway point, you can see they're starting to get a little steamy and they're getting a little bit of brown. So I'm gonna go ahead and just move them around, redistribute everything. Like I said, your oven may cook faster. Your temperature may need to be higher. You're gonna just need to keep an eye on it and you'll figure out what works best for you. But this was 30 minutes at 375 and I'm gonna put them back in for another 30 minutes. It may be closer to 20 by the time I look at them again. I'll look at them again in 20 and see how they're doing. But they're looking great and they smell great. And then and these are the others. And they are also looking great. And I don't think these will take the full 30 minutes again. I'm saying these might be done in 15. So I'm gonna look at them again in 15. Because like I said, the soft veg might take a shorter time than the hard veg. Okay, this goes to the top. And this one goes to the bottom. So the chicken's been grilling on the first side for about 7 minutes or so, and I think they're ready to flip. So you can see they have a nice grill mark on them. And you see how they're cooked about halfway up? Okay, once again, leave them alone. They won't need as long to cook on the second side, but still leave them alone and let them just get good. Okay, so the chicken's been on side 2 for maybe about 5 or so minutes, and I'm gonna use a meat thermometer just so you can be 100% sure. For poultry, you wanna be at least 165, so let's go ahead and put it in the fat part of a breast and see what happens. Oh, look at that, we're good. We are good. All right, so I'm gonna transfer these to a dish. So one thing you want to do with any meat that you've roasted, grilled, or anything, you don't want to cut into it right away because all of the really good juices will escape. So go ahead and put this chicken on your serving dish and let it rest. Just let it hang out and you can take care of some other things. We're going to actually make the quinoa because it comes together in about 15 minutes and then it'll be ready when the veggies come out and we'll have the whole meal ready to go. For quinoa, you need to rinse it with a fine mesh strainer. The roasted veggie with quinoa recipe calls for 1 cup, but I'm gonna be multi-purposing this quinoa that I'm cooking into several recipes, so I'm cooking extra quinoa. I'm gonna rinse the quinoa. And if you have one of these little rain shower features on your faucet, that helps it to not bounce out. And then I'm gonna get the broth in just a small saucepan, is fine. And you need to bring the broth and the quinoa to a boil. I'm just gonna put the quinoa in here. And I'm gonna let this come to a boil. Okay, so the veggies are out of the oven. You can see they're beautiful, roasted. We're gonna get the dressing made so that once the quinoa is done, we're ready to combine the whole dish together. So it's 1/3 cup of olive oil to 1/3 cup of lemon juice. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it in a mason jar. It makes it really easy for shaking. This is a great job for kids, is the lemon juicing. So if you have a nice juicer like this, they can do this job. Okay, let's see how we're doing. I think we might need more than, oh, actually we're at 1/3 cup right there. So that's perfect. It was about 1.5 lemons. So it might be 2 full lemons, it just depends. So that's going in there. And then the last to go in here is the salt and pepper. Oh, and I've got a beep on the quinoa. I'm just gonna check on it and get the salt and pepper. Okay, that's still going. Quinoa. Put the lid on, and this is another great kid job, is shaking. Okay, and this will hang out. We'll give it a shake before we're ready to dress the dish. And the last thing we're gonna do, this is kind of the yummify ingredient on this dish, which is basil. And fresh basil gives it a really nice pop. It calls for about 15 leaves. So just pluck your leaves off. This is local basil to our area. It smells amazing. I'm gonna save these stems. They'll be great in a stock, or if you're making a sauce, just drop them in there to impart some extra flavor in your tomato sauce. Okay, that's great. So if you stack your leaves, make a little stack, and then give them a little roll like that. And then remember, keep your knife point on the board, and they'll make little ribbons. After your chicken gets a chance to rest, make sure you do give it time to rest and let the juices settle in. This is a really good tip for families. Meat is one of our more expensive items. It's also a little bit harder to find these days since we're isolating and cooking at home more frequently. So I have 6 chicken breasts for a family of 4. If we all eat 1 whole breast tonight for dinner, then we won't have enough for our leftovers for lunch tomorrow. So one really great trick that you can do is slice all of your meat. And people tend to take less, and often at the Dr. Yum Project, what we talk about is having your plate be veggie heavy and meat be more like a condiment. So we're gonna have mostly roasted veggies with quinoa and a little beans if you want. And then the meat is kind of just a complement to that. So you can slice your meat, and then everyone can take some slices of the chicken to go along with their roasted veggies and quinoa. Okay, I wanna show you what the quinoa looks like and how easy this is to make. So you can see those little round grains just sort of sprung open and pearled up. All you do is just let it fluff it with a fork. Now remember, we made double the amount of quinoa we need, so I'm just gonna put half in here for tonight. Half is gonna be saved for tomorrow. Okay, so that's about half the quinoa, and then we're gonna get our roasted veg added in. And what I'm gonna do is not put all of it in there. I'm gonna save a little bit in case people just want some plain roasted veg tomorrow. Look how pretty. Make sure you get all the juices in there, where the olive oil and the garlic and the onion work their magic. Okay, and we'll save this also for tomorrow. We've got our dressing that we already made. Just gently fold this around. So just sprinkle your basil on top. And I'm gonna clear this away so we're ready to serve. So believe it or not, it's actually my birthday. And I actually had so much fun filming this for my birthday. I got to cook with my daughter, and I'm gonna have a lovely dinner with my family. And I wanted to show you how it turned out. So all 4 of us have made our plates. You can see we have plenty of food on our plates. And you can also see the leftovers that we have to go in the fridge that we have to work with for breakfast and lunch tomorrow. So I have roasted veggie quinoa here, the plain roasted veggies here, the plain quinoa here, the leftover chicken is here, and the leftover beans are here. So even though this may seem a little overwhelming and a lot to do at one time, you're gonna feel so great tomorrow. Okay, so I'll see you then. Good morning from my kitchen. It's nice to see you all again. And I hope that you'll find that making your next few meals is really easy because of all the work you did last night. We're gonna make Dr. Yum's Super Egg Scramble. And so the great thing about the super egg scramble is it uses the quinoa. I'm also going to show you a sweet way to prepare quinoa, almost like an oatmeal. And so that's another great option for the members of your family who maybe aren't into eggs. They can use some of the quinoa in a sweet porridge style. The recipe calls for a large tomato, but these are the tomatoes I had, so I'm just going to kind of aim for about a cup worth of tomatoes. I'm also going to cut extra because I want to be able to put a lid on this and have it later for lunch. One great tip we use in the Yum Kitchen, especially for our young chefs, is we teach the kids that when you have a small choking hazard type of fruit or veg, like grapes or cherry tomatoes, you want to use this method to cut them because they'll roll around on your board, plus they have a squishy inside which can pop out everywhere and make it really hard to cut. So have your kids form a London bridge with their finger and their thumb to hold the cherry tomato with long ways, and then they're going to place it solidly on their board and the knife goes inside the middle. And then you have two flats that they can then London bridge again and cut. You can also use these for a fresh salsa. So I have some cilantro in the fridge and a lime and some seasonings, and you could easily add a little bit of onion and garlic in here and make a really nice fresh salsa, and that would go great on top of Yum Bowl or just with some kind of dippers if you have some corn chips or something in your pantry. This is our favorite thing to plant at the Yum Kitchen, are all these little different colored tomatoes. These are a great porch item, so if you want to garden on your porch and do some containers. These are also great. We plant them in the parking lot of Yum Pediatrics up on the mulched island, and we called it Caprice Hill because we had all these tomato plants growing there and a bunch of basil plants, and instead of bushes for decorating our office, we have plants that are edible. Washing spinach is a great job for younger people in your family, so get them to wash the spinach. If you have one of these salad spinners, kids love this. This one is really cool. It has a brake, and we can stop that. So that's nice and clean and dry. So what I'm gonna do is, if you have little people in your home, let them tear this spinach into little tiny pieces. That will keep them busy the whole time you're doing everything else. But I'm just gonna stack leaves like I did with the basil last night and kind of do a little chiffonade, which is that little roll it and cut it into ribbons so that it goes great in our eggs. I'm a fan of fresh pepper, so I'm gonna crack some pepper on here. And everybody sort of has their own preference on scrambled eggs, whether you like it a little more firm or a little more runny. Some people really do like the brown. I'm not a huge fan of the brown, so I keep it moving. I'm gonna go ahead and add the quinoa in and the spinach. And it's supposed to be one large tomato, so I'm just gonna do a handful of these tomatoes or so, maybe 2 handfuls, and start moving it around. Okay, these eggs are almost done. While they're finishing, I just want to show you I have some of the beans left over from last night. When you're reheating food, you don't want to reheat the whole portion and then put it in the fridge again. So just get out the amount that you think you're going to use and put it in a bowl for heating in the microwave. Put the rest back in the fridge, so this will be ready for Yum Bowl for lunch. I'm just going to heat up this little bit for our breakfast tacos. So you can see how much this makes. I mean, would easily feed a family of 4 to 6. Okay, beans are heated. Let me show you how we'll put this together. So I'm gonna dish this up a couple ways so you can see that everybody can have a choice of how they want to have their super egg scramble. I'm gonna do a few of these breakfast taco style. So I'm gonna just line the beans in here. You're just gonna put a little bit of your super egg scramble in your breakfast taco. Okay. And a little bit of Mexican cheese. You could even do hot sauce, salsa, whatever you want. I'm just gonna get this put together. You can dress it up however you want. And we'll do one on toast here. can dress it up with the feta from last night. It goes great with the super egg scramble. We're just gonna do beans on the side and eggs. This is for someone who doesn't want toast or a taco. And this one you can just do your toast on the side. This cheese here, and this cheese here. I wanted to show you an alternate option of what you could do with your already cooked quinoa and make it porridge style. So a lot of people are not used to using quinoa as a breakfast item in a sweet sense. So this can be really different from oatmeal, has a different texture, a different flavor. My daughter's allergic to eggs, so this is a perfect option for her because she couldn't have the super egg scramble. So really all we're gonna do is just heat up some of this already cooked quinoa that we have from dinner last night. I'm just gonna put a couple spoonfuls in here. And then you wanna give it a little moisture. She's also dairy free, so I'm using a little bit of coconut milk, but you could use a nut milk if you wanted, or dairy milk. I'm just gonna see how that goes and see if I like the consistency of it. I'm actually gonna put a tiny bit more. I don't want it to be too wet though. You could also add some mashed banana in here. That makes it really tasty. I've had that before and it's really good. And I'm just moving it around to make sure it doesn't get stuck in one place or burnt at all. Keeping it smooth. And it looks just about perfect. I'm gonna take it over and we can dress it up in different ways for different people. So I have it in 2 little dishes, and then we have some options for sweeteners. If you want, I have honey, maple syrup, brown sugar. We've got some fresh berries. We have some dried fruit, some nuts, and some seeds. We have pepitas here. So everybody can dress their bowl of sweet quinoa breakfast cereal however they want. Welcome back for lunch. This is the easiest one to pull together. We're gonna be using Dr. Yum's Meal-O-Matic format Yum Bowl. So check that one out and see how easy it is to customize for your family. It's our favorite one to use with our Parenting for Wellness series in the kitchen. This is a 4-week class that we give to parents, and they come and share a meal with me and Sarah in the kitchen, and we talk about parenting principles around food. Food can be challenging for families and for kids. When you're introducing new flavors, it's really a great idea to offer free choice, and Yum Bowl is the ultimate free choice. So if you see here, I have all of the things that are left from the meals that we've already done. I have the spinach that we had with our breakfast. I have our roasted veggies and quinoa from last night's dinner. I have the chicken that's left. I have the beans that are left. I have a couple of different cheeses that we already had in the fridge. Some hummus. I have the rest of our tomatoes. I have a couple of different choices of dressings. Some people might want a balsamic. We've got hot sauce, salsa. You may have other choices in your fridge. Just pull out your favorite condiments and let's put them on the table. We've got the toppers that we used this morning with our quinoa, our sweet quinoa, but really sweet in the Yum Bowl, like with maybe dropping a craisin on top or even some of those fresh blueberries or raspberries, is a nice pop. And you'll be surprised when your family builds their own bowls how different they look. So I'm gonna get to building my bowl. I like a lower bowl because I'm gonna put some greens in the bottom. The roasted veggies and quinoa are just as delicious cold as they are fresh out of the oven. And for me, I'm gonna go for, I don't know, I guess I'm getting everything. I'm gonna get some of these beans and a little bit of chicken. I like a combo of hummus and salsa. For my cheese, I'm gonna go with, I think with this Mexican blend will go really well with my salsa. And for my fresh topper, I'm gonna go with some cilantro, and for a little crunch, a pepita, which are the pumpkin seeds. I wanna introduce you to my family. They've been the beneficiaries of all of the food that's happened to make this video. This is Hannah, she's been behind the camera. Here's Tina, and there's Bob. And we're gonna show you everybody's Yum Bowl. Hannah's gonna go back behind the camera. We're gonna zoom in on hers. Hannah, tell me what you love about Yum Bowl.
I love being able to have both greens and grains together.
All right, Tina, how does yours look?
Great, tasty.
Tina's been trying a lot of new foods over this video series, and I'm super impressed. All right, Bob, what you got?
I've got little bit of everything, including some hot sauce on top. So I'm excited to have it.
We really enjoyed putting this together, and I hope you will try preparing some food ahead of time so you have plenty to last you for a few days. Look, we still have leftovers. Bye.
Bye.